Do one of you guys have an eye on the chat too if you need to see anything? Any questions?
I will.
Okay, perfect. And we say I need like waiting room music, like Doug waiting room music as we start up webinars.
We can start singing.
Yeah, there you go. Tootsie, where are you? Play a song for us. It's almost Friday too. What a way to start off your weekend. Almost weekend.
Friday Eve is how I like to
There you go.
describe Thursdays.
I like your thinking. Let me just make sure. Yep, our recording's going. All right, I can start off by kicking you guys off for now, and then whoever decides to join the party will join the party. Thank you, everyone who is sitting here with us today. Welcome to a Doug Team Up Partner Showcase webinar. Today we have our foundation partner, Netstock, and they'll be sharing their session, Supercharge Your Inventory Management, AI-powered solutions for Dynamics users. Netstock has a few polls that I am going to launch for you guys in a few minutes here, just for them to get to know you a little bit better. And I will turn over the mic to Mariah and Lainey to get us started.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Brianna. I am going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. All right. Can everybody see?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So thanks so much for the opportunity and welcome everyone. Mariah and I are extremely glad that you're here. And we just want to do a quick introduction of ourselves. So I'm Lainey Itzen-Coleman, and I'm a channel manager here at Netstock. And Mariah?
Hi, everyone. Mariah Flynn, and I'm also a channel manager here at Netstock. I've been at Netstock for about 3.5 years, newer into the channel. I'm actually coming from implementation. So when we head into the demo part for today, we'll take you through the application and I can show you all the good stuff, but super excited to be here.
Fabulous. Thanks, Mariah. The brains behind this group is Mariah. I've been at Netstock for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I spent 25+ years in the Microsoft channel and space. So know a lot about the ERP, but today we're going to be talking about more than ERP technology. We're going to be talking about AI. And as all of you know, artificial intelligence is this revolution. And we're using it not just to change inventory management, but to really redefine how you spend, how you predict, how you safeguard your margins. The other thing to think about is it's not just about chasing the AI trend for the sake of being that trendy, that cutting edge, but we want you to use it with purpose and with clarity and to get those end results to make your business highly successful and efficient and free up cash and just do what you want to do to build your business. But we still want you to be in control as the strategic thinkers making those decisions. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about that. So why does this matter to CFOs, to you as financial people? The things that you're dealing with in the market is that volatility. You're facing tariffs and inflation and labor shortages and supply chain issues and things that can happen and just kind of go crazy overnight. And it's not just the noise. It's not just things that are happening in the world, but it's a threat to business, right? So Recently, we ran a tariff survey, and the numbers are just staggering. 75% of small to medium businesses haven't created a strategy with how to tackle these hits, or you're scrambling every single time something happens. So something to think about as you're looking into this. Currently, how much of your cash is locked up in inventory? How vulnerable are you when things shift and change and you're facing some of these challenges? This is where AI is going to change everything. We're looking at this, it's not just a tool, but it's a way to really see things very clear and helps you to act quickly and decisively with reducing the risk. And like I said earlier, freeing up that cash in the working capital, along with making your customers absolutely happy. Okay, so we want it to be simple, powerful, and building that business that doesn't just survive things, but it's thriving and growing in the way that you want it to grow. So looking at this slide, there's a lot of information. We've got Gartner giving us information, and Accenture and Fortune, and even just some of the things that Netstock has seen. And these numbers aren't just data. AI is no longer theoretical. It's happening now. We all see it everywhere. I'm one of these old dogs learning these new tricks, but AI is being prioritized. So many supply chain companies are data rich, but they really are lacking that insight. And this is where AI is going to help you. So you all know this guy. When looking at some things that Steve Jobs has said, a great quote has come from him. And that quote is right here on the page. I think one of these things that really separates us from the high primates is that we're tool builders. So think about that as humans. And the things that Steve Jobs was thinking about is, comparing us to those high primates. And in this story, he talked about condors versus a man, and with humans just scoring unimpressively low. But if you give a human a tool, we can blow those animals away with what we can do and where we can take things. So kind of think of that comparison. And then another thing he ends with his insight is what a computer to me, to Steve Jobs, is. It's the most remarkable tool we've ever come up with. The equivalent of giving a bicycle of our minds. So the bicycle was from that tool that he used to compare the condor and what a human can do as far as speed and movement and that kind of thing. But it's that computer of giving that bicycle for our minds. And I think that remains true with everything that we continue to come up with. The advancement of the AI, the advancement of technology. But what we're doing is we are looking at responsible AI. It's not just about, getting information and removing that human involvement. It's about enhancing our ability to get that strategic thinking. So we have a quote from a customer that I just love that they're saying, realizing the inefficiencies in our manual processes, we turn to Netstock. It automates the task that I had been doing manually. And it's like having that functionality tailored for big businesses now available to me as a small and medium business. It convinced this person, why should I do all the heavy lifting when there's a system that can do it for me? I can use that information and make those better decisions. So what's the role of AI in inventory management? So when you look at all these things, the forecasting, looking at the risks that you have, your replenishment cycles, the reporting, it helps across all of the inventory management life cycle. So it's going to help you be proactive to forecasting, looking at the risks. It's really your assistant to highlight things that you may not have seen in the past. It's going to help you plan for the future. The one thing that we didn't really talk about when I said about responsible AI is, what does that exactly mean, and what does it mean to Netstock? So some things that you want to think about with that the responsible AI is if you kind of do things in a vacuum, you don't take into account some of the bias. That's one of the biggest, most important risks when using AI in making decisions. So I don't know if you remember the slide from before, but linking it back to how Accenture reports the leaders struggling with poor data quality. That's what we're talking about. It can creep in from biased historical data with poorly designed algorithms and just not taking things into account. So if a model is only trained on legacy demand, it might deprioritize some of the new markets or the new products. The responsible use means that you're taking into that human accountability in the loop, and AI decisions are made with you involved. You make the strategy, you use this as a tool versus replacing what a human might do. So that's where the transparency, the collaboration, that's where it all works. And you're challenging some assumptions and you're making sure that things are balanced and strategic. So quick example, I'm going to take a quick drink here. So when you're looking at a planner managing 10,000 SKUs, there is no way a human can look at every single outlier with that many SKUs, okay? But we all know who can? AI can. So AI helps planners see all of the different outliers that we will miss. You can have reduction in stock without risking service. You're going to get more from your existing warehouse space, and that's going to protect your margins. Now, on the workforce side, we have advanced analytics that can help tackle costs and retention, and it gives the leaders better visibility. It's all about enhancing that human decision making. And some things that you're going to see with Netstock and that we've been seeing is we can help reduce the excess stock by up to 20%, but protect that service level, and you're still going to have happy customers. You're going to see cost-cutting measures, 15 to 20% through better visibility into attrition and performance and retention drivers. And you're going to have clear actions on how to improve them. Now, when you look at where AI is taking inventory planning, you're going to see things like proactive decision making. You're going to see things ahead of time so that you can adjust before something hits. Adjust those plans real time without that manual intervention, as you can see here. And it's just going to help be proactive versus reacting to the things that you're probably experiencing today. Now, for another future scenario, kind of talking about what we were talking about before, you can incorporate weather data, predicting likelihoods of flooding. Many of you might be in areas where you've experienced how flooding has impacted your organization, whether it's supplier issues with flooding or looking at historically, if there was a flood in the certain area where your supplier was at, it's going to cause delay in shipments. So again, AI engines can suggest that proactive approach, that decision that you can make. You'll see some communications. It could send alerts to customer service teams so that you can proactively talk to customers and let them know, hey, we're expecting X, Y, or Z, expect a delay. You could avoid that delay altogether by understanding, here's some of the at-risk items. We should either place orders in advance or increase our safety stock levels so that we don't run into those issues. Now, when you're looking at some things that I've seen a lot is trends. What are these trends in the market? I have kids, they look at TikTok. What are some of the TikTok crazes that your kids have wanted? And you go out to buy an item and they're nowhere in sight because this crazy social media signal just made this product now not available. So we can use AI to help analyze those trends, those real-time market trends. You run into those social media signals and historical sales data, and it can help predict that sudden increase in demand and help you to see over the next 6 weeks or what have you, how do you make sure that you're still providing that service level during that viral trend. So it can scale up production, expedite orders. It can look at shipments. Do you reroute shipments through an alternative port or sourcing from another supplier or what have you? So it gives you that insight that as a human, you might not be able to see or predict that, but you can make strategic decisions with that information. So our philosophy at Netstock, I touched that very, very briefly, but we are really focused on a real world example of how we put responsible AI principles into practice. And our focus is building tools that empower you, that empower people. We want to deliver measurable results and keep your data secure. But ultimately, we want to free up your time to plan smarter and be very confident in what decisions you're making. So with that, I'm just going to leave you. There's a few things to think about AI and what you can do with it today. It is for sure a game changer. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have seen that in many aspects of your life, but we want to bring this into your inventory planning. Netstock is a tool that really empowers you to see clearly, make those decisions, and unlock strategic wins for your organization. So whether it's reducing stock, having better accurate forecasting, heck, even anticipating those disruptions that we talked about, whether it's weather or shipping or viral trends. It's really looked at to not only mastering the supply chain rather than just managing it. Sorry, I got that backwards. But this takes responsibility. So we want to make sure that it's highlighting the insights, crunching the data, while pulling you as a person in to really control the ship and steer that strategy. So with that, I just want you to think about what's possible within your organization using AI as that tool, and it helps you to not just keep up, but lead the way. So let's work together to harness this tool and really turn the challenges that you're facing into growth opportunities and success. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mariah to show you what the actual product looks like and how AI with Netstock can help you move forward in the future. So I'll turn it over to you, Mariah.
Thanks, Lainey. Great job. The TikTok thing is a real life example of a Netstock customer who actually came to us. And if any of you are on social media, like the pistachio cream is really trendy right now, and that was a part of their business. So it's definitely a real life example. Before I get into the demo, I do want to just direct you guys to the chat if you haven't seen our poll questions to go ahead and hop in there. There are a couple questions in there that will help me sort of understand the audience a little bit more to kind of put that into the demo. Another thing that I want to mention is if there's anything specifically that you would like to see in the demo, you can go ahead and pop it in the chat. The intention of the demo today is to just show you what the interface looks like. Obviously, I'm going to show you the AI, and then I'm going to show you like a couple of core pieces of functionality. But obviously, if you want to see more, if you have questions about use cases, things like that, we'll have our contact information. We'll also have an opportunity for questions at the end. But I'm also totally okay with if you want to put questions in the chat as I'm going through it. I know it can be a lot of us just kind of talking at you, so we can make it interactive, yes, if you guys would like. But yeah, so don't hold back. You can also, I don't know if you can unmute yourself, but if you really want to ask, you can go ahead and interrupt me. That's totally fine.
And just so you know, I'll be watching the chat, so I might interrupt you, Mariah, with questions, so I can be your voice too, just like Mariah said.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see it? All right, ready to go. Okay. So right off the bat, this is Netstock. If you haven't seen it before, it's always going to default to your dashboard. Now, before I go through the dashboard, you can see right off the bat how AI is integrated into Netstock with this opportunity here at the top. So this is being driven off of what we call our opportunity engine, and it is an important opportunity. So when users log in, you'll see opportunities at the top of your screen here, and obviously this one is an important one. What it's telling you here is that there's a stock out, so it will hyperlink the item, tell you where it's stocked out, provide you with what we anticipate you're going to lose in terms of units and also dollar amount. It can also see that you do not have any purchase orders open for this item, and there's no excess in other locations. So with the AI, Netstock is taking a look at basically the whole scope. Okay, so it's taking a look at, do you have any purchase orders open? If there were one open, it would give you the purchase order number and say you should expedite this, right? Or it can also look and see if you have other suppliers on this item, because we look at your PO history. It could even provide you with a suggestion of, hey, you should look at XYZ supplier if you can't get it from this other supplier. So that's what's really unique about our AI, is that it's looking at the full scope, and it's not just telling you, hey, you have a stock out. It's providing you with the impact of that stock out, and also in a lot of cases, not only the short-term recommendations, but the long-term recommendations to avoid that issue in the future. You can also train your AI. So you can say if you liked this or if you didn't like this insight. And then if you hit more opportunities, that will take you to your sort of like where you can see all of your opportunities. So you can go ahead and filter on, I think I saw someone earlier that said that they struggle with excess stock. You can filter on overstocked. You can filter to specific locations. And then you can have it show you specific insights based on whatever filters you have in here. And so a part of everyone's work process with Netstock is to utilize these opportunities. Even before AI, Netstock was designed to be an exception-based application. We don't want users to hop in and have to search 100 million different tabs to figure out where their time and effort is best served. And so our AI also follows that. We want users to be enabled to be successful and know where they can find the information to go ahead and execute. Okay, so that's our AI opportunity engine. And again, you have the ability to train it, mute it, and kind of make your AI engine your own. We also have AI at the item level. And again, I'm starting off with the AI, and then I'll walk you through some other key things about Netstock to understand how we get these insights. But if I go to an item level, and I'm just picking any item here, we'll walk back in this screen in a moment. But you can see here that we have the analyze and the troubleshoot buttons here. So at an item level, I can go ahead and hit this analyze button, and it's going to give me very similar insights to what I saw in the opportunity engine, but this exists on every single item in Netstock. So as a buyer or a user, I always have the ability to understand what's going on, the impact to the business, and then the short and sometimes long recommendations. So again, this is another item that's stocked out. It's telling you that the item's classification, and we'll talk about classification in a moment. It's giving you the reason for the stock out, so there's 0 on hand. And then you can see things even like reduced customer loyalty, right? So far beyond just an inventory insight, it's giving you a fuller insight to the impact to the business. And it's telling you to expedite, look at alternative suppliers. Here's what I was speaking to earlier, where it's giving you the actual purchase order number to go ahead and expedite. Here's where I was also talking about additional suppliers. So this is a supplier in this demo instance that the item has historically been received from, and it's not the primary. Okay, and then back to what Lainey was speaking to earlier, we also use our AI to help with your data quality, which is housed in this troubleshoot. So we give you things like overdue purchase order insights, forecast variability, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then looking at some other details on the item itself. So again, far more than just, hey, you're stocked out on this good. Here's what it is. Here's the impact to the business. Here's the action to resolve it. And then here are some other data quality and inputs that you could look at to resolve or, help this not be the case in the future. Okay, so it really is a game changer. As somebody that used to implement, obviously, the importance of understanding the application is important. But now you can understand the application, but also have your little AI buddy there to help support you when you're trying to execute. It is amazing. Even as somebody that has used the tool for many, many years, I use the AI every time I'm in the application as well. Okay.
So my favorite thing, Mariah, is that you called it your AI buddy. I love that.
Yes, it is. It really is a buddy. And as somebody that used to be a buyer, I would also say buddy is a great word to help you out during those stressful times when you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing.
We all need a buddy.
Yeah, you could even name it. We have a colleague that just released a really interesting article about naming your AI. So maybe everyone should take the page out of that book because it's going to be with you as you utilize Netstock. But okay, so let's go ahead and take it from the top. Like I said, I wanted to start with the AI just to kind of piggyback off of what the webinar is about. But now I want to talk about Netstock as an application kind of as a whole, so you can understand where the AI actually comes into play and like what Netstock is trying to achieve, right? Because obviously the application has existed far beyond us layering AI into it. So first things first is the dashboard. Like I said, right when you log into Netstock, you're going to see this really nice dashboard. One thing to note is that everything in Netstock is driven at an item and location level. So you can see here in the upper right-hand corner, I have all of my different locations. These locations are read out of your ERP. So something to note, all of the information in Netstock is coming from your ERP. Okay, so we're reading things like cost, stock on hand, all of the insights, purchase order history, open transactions. That's all coming from your ERP. Netstock is not here to replace that. So that's where these locations are coming from. You do have the ability to create consolidations in Netstock as well. They're like virtual consolidations. So if you're a business that has multiple locations, but you would like to see things at an aggregate level, you do have the ability to do that in Netstock. Really quickly, just running through the dashboard. On the left-hand side, we're looking at your stock holding at cost. Next to that, we're looking at excess stock. So we all know what excess stock is, but I think understanding how much excess you're holding in your supply chain, and then also utilizing that information to not to continue to contribute to excess, but to also use it to run exercises to get rid of that excess is incredibly important. I think I saw in the chat that their business that's struggling with excess stock. The first part to no longer having that be the case is obviously having the information and understanding where your excess lies. Everything on this dashboard is in order of your top 5. So let's say I were to run an exercise to, get rid of excess stock, whether that's, bundling or putting items on promotion or whatever it may be. I know that this SKU is the item that is contributing the most to my excess. So that's where I would go ahead and start, right? rather than spending hours on end pulling your items, figuring out if they're in excess, and then figuring out where to start. Okay, so that goes back to that exception-based tool that I was talking about earlier. Next to that, we have surplus orders. Again, early warning signs. That's what Netstock is designed to do. We're trying to get you out of this reactive state and put you into this and where you can anticipate issues in your supply chain. Surplus orders is an early warning sign of excess stock. Okay, so you have an item on purchase order and it's not yet received, but we anticipate that when you receive that purchase order, it will contribute to your excess. So again, if I were to run AI on this or on any of these goods in the surplus, it would tell you to probably cancel that purchase order or, you know, delay it, have its due date be in the future. Okay, so we're getting to that action, and the status is a huge piece that contributes to those AI generated insights. Okay. Underneath that, we have potential stock out, which is an early warning sign of stocked out. It is telling you based on the information, if you have a purchase order or if you don't have a purchase order, it's not due in enough time, right? So let's say you even have a PO open, you can still be in a potential stock out because you're not going to receive it in enough time and will stock out before that purchase order actually arrives. And then we have our stock out, which I think everyone understands what a stock out is. But what's really unique about Netstock is it doesn't just tell you the item is stocked out. It gives you insights into lost sales due to stockouts. Okay. And we just released a new case study. And that particular customer with Netstock had 90% fewer stockouts and 80% fewer potential stockouts. And the great part about this is that you will see, and that's why the dashboard is designed this way to kind of show you what it looks like over time, is you will see a positive impact on these metrics simply by utilizing Netstock as it is designed to. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do all this crazy stuff. You bring on Netstock, you use it how it is intended to be used, and you will see positive impacts on these metrics, right? So ordering when you're supposed to order, not contributing to excess stock, things of that nature, okay? And then
So
we're also
Mariah, again, what did you say? It was 90%?
Yes, 90% fewer stockouts and 80% fewer potential stockouts.
That's amazing.
Real metrics because we can see it over time on your dashboard. So this number on the left-hand side is going to be sort of initial when you started using Netstock, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like current day. So you don't even have to have Netstock to pull those insights. You have the ability to do that, which is great. And you can have, you know, all kinds of users have a really good pulse check on what's going on with the business and what's going on with the supply chain. We also have fill rate. So fill rate, we're calculating what your fill rates are. Fill rate is also an input into our planning, which we'll talk a little bit about inputs, but we're not really going to get too far into that today. And we're looking at things like stock turns, new items, things of that nature. So dashboard is huge. I do quickly want to go to the forecasts. So what we're looking at now is forecast at what we would call an aggregate level. So Netstock is going to generate a forecast utilizing our forecasting algorithm for every single item in Netstock. It is going to be over a 12 or a 24-month planning horizon, which I'll show you what it looks like at an item level in a moment. We have 9 different demand types. So it's not just a straight moving average of your history. We actually look at the history and are able to do sort of a best fit on what is the best forecasting algorithm for that particular good. These are, again, high level insights. So you can see all of your history at an aggregate level. And then you can also see your future forecasts and any adjustments that you've made to the forecast. Similar visualization over here on the right-hand side, looking at history. You can see that this business is experiencing some good growth, so we love that. And then down here is where we look at forecasting performance. And the reason why I have this as a part of this demo, again, is to help show how Netstock is driving the action of its users. So forecast is an incredibly important part to planning. And a lot of folks, if they are planning to a forecast, are not sort of closing that loop and understanding how the forecast compared to the performance. Okay. So it's incredibly important that you look at the forecast that you were planning to versus the sales that actually occurred. So you don't continue to plan to this forecast that is, way off. But it's really hard to do that, right? Like a lot of businesses are just trying to execute, right? Where we're happy that we have a forecast. So Netstock does a lot of that for you and is going to give you what we call exception reports. So these exception reports, the sales exceeds forecast, meaning that you are selling more than you forecasted for, and the forecast exceeding sales, which is the opposite, will be a part of every user's journey with Netstock to go ahead, look at these reports and use that to then drive action, which I've said 100 times, to then make updates to the forecast. Okay, so this forecast exception is a huge piece of value with bringing on Netstock. It's far more than we're just going to generate a forecast and set it and forget it. Okay, all right. I briefly want to talk about the classification because the classification really is sort of one of the big pieces on how Netstock can do what it can do, right? If I look at you and I say, I want to decrease your inventory while simultaneously increasing your service to your customers, you're going to look at me and say, how am I going to do that? And there's obviously a bunch of answers to that, but one of the big answers is the classification, okay? So Netstock by default will classify all of your stocked items into what we call our dual classification. So we have high, medium, and low here at the top, and A, B, and C on the left-hand side. A, B, and C is looking at value, and high, medium, and low is looking at velocity, okay? So AH, obviously the most important items to our business. CL, not so important to our business. And you can see in this demo instance, we have thousands of items sitting in CL. And I think almost every customer that I ever worked with had a very similar look to this demo instance when they first started with Netstock. The split of their items was very shocking to them, right? And then we can take it one step further and give you insights into this dual classification. So if I want to look at things like demand, right? As we would anticipate, demand is going to be the highest in the AH item and sort of these green blocks, and the lowest in the CL category. But maybe we look at excess stock, right? All of our excess stock is tied into the items that are not moving, which is what you would anticipate. But the classification is giving you insights into what items are making the most money for your business and how you should prioritize. So Lainey earlier is talking about supply chain disruption and uncertain times and things like that. So when you need to make decisions for your business, it's incredibly important that you have insight into what items are the best performing for your business. This also gives you the opportunity to model things like changes in safety stock, changes in service levels, things like that, to understand the impact. And if I need to pick and choose and prioritize where my money is being spent, I don't want to spend a bunch of time trying to figure out what those items are. I can go ahead and hop into Netstock and easily identify those items and then model whatever I'm trying to model to understand the impact on my business. So that's why I say Netstock is really, really meant to give you the ability to execute faster and with more confidence. And then it also gives you what I call the single source of truth across the board, across all organizations. So you want to go to your sales team and say, this is why we're not ordering this, right? Let's look at the performance of the good. Let's look at the inputs, or let's work together and model what it looks like. It's far beyond just an order placing tool, and it really gives you the ability to optimize your supply chain. Okay.
So Mariah, quick question. You may have said this, but how often does it update these classifications?
These classifications update every single day. They are dynamic in nature. It's a really good question. We don't want stagnant classification. You don't have to manually rerun these. As things change, the classification will also change. Good question. Okay. All right, so we have about 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes before. I just want to leave plenty of time for questions. So I'm going to show you just a few things at an item level, and then I want to briefly show you orders. So navigation in Netstock is very easy. I'm just typing in a SKU code here at the top, and I'm going to click it, and that will give me my item. Like I said, there's a lot of information here. There are two things specifically that I want to point out at an item level. First is Netstock's ability to understand what we call supplier constraints. So minimum order quantities and order multiples exist in a lot of people's businesses. We read those out of your ERP and we utilize that for your order recommendation. So you no longer have to say, okay, what's my order? What's the MOQ? And then sort of get the recommendation. You'll get the recommendation sort of off the bat. Another really interesting thing about the supplier constraints that a lot of businesses do is they use that information to understand the impact of the supplier constraints on their inventory holding. And it's really easy to do that with Netstock, right? If I have a minimum order quantity that's driving me to buy 400 days worth of inventory at one time, maybe that's not what I want to do, especially during times of uncertainty, right? So now I can take that information, I can understand how that's impacting my inventory, but also take it back to my supplier and have more strategic conversations with my supplier, or maybe you change suppliers or whatever it may be. But the first step is understanding those ordering constraints and how they're impacting your business. So you'll find little nuggets like that throughout Netstock. Is like, it gives you the information to execute faster, but it also gives you the information to then have a little bit more insight into what's going on in your supply chain based on the current setup. Okay. And then safety stock. So again, probably by far my favorite piece of functionality in Netstock is going to be the safety stock, which is why I asked you that poll question in the beginning of how you're currently managing your safety stock. A lot of businesses are managing safety stock to what I call like minimum, stagnant minimums. So you went into your ERP and you put in like 4 units or whatever it may be. In Netstock, safety stock is dynamic by item and location, and it is calculated within the application. So what I mean by that, the inputs that you see over here, things like target fill rates, replenishment cycles, I'll talk about risk in a moment, and lead time, is going to drive an in-app calculated safety stock in days. Those days are then converted into units based on the demand for the good. So this item is seasonal in nature. But let's say this item, like let's say something that we all know, sunscreen, okay? Sunscreen is seasonal in nature. The safety stock that I need, let's say in July, is a lot higher than the safety stock that I need in December. And I no longer have to go into my ERP and figure out what my safety stock should be. Netstock is going to have you hold more during your high period, so when you're selling more, and then automatically taper that off in your lower periods. So it's all dynamic, and it's going to have you hold exactly how much you need based on the inputs for the good and the demand during that period of time, which is great, right? And it doesn't even have to be seasonal, right? Things like higher target fill rates are going to hold more safety stock, but it's all dynamic in nature and it's all living, which is the truth for everything in Netstock, but specifically the safety stock is a huge value piece for a lot of our clients, okay? And then with the supply risk and the forecast risk being inputs, supply risk is measuring your supplier's ability to deliver on time and in full, and forecast risk is measuring the forecast reliability. So another thing very unique to Netstock is taking risk and building it into safety stock. We take what's actually going on in your supply chain and layer that in. And the main goal here is to bridge any potential gaps in stock availability by looking at how you're actually executing, right? My supplier is taking 2 times as long than my planning lead time. If I don't have anything, then I have periods where I don't have inventory when I thought I was going to have it. So that's why we build that into the safety stock. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to show you guys is going to be our order screen, because that's where we're trying to go, right? Everything in Netstock is eventually going to lead you back to the orders. So ordering in Netstock is literally in 3 clicks versus Excel spreadsheets, manually putting line items, all of that probably some folks on the call have to do. In that same case study I mentioned earlier, that particular client said that they saved 3 to 4 hours per day with Netstock. And a lot of that saved time is coming from order execution. So in Netstock, you go to your order screen, you automatically see every supplier that has an item recommended today to order. And before I go ahead and open the order, I want to talk about different types of orders you can open and see in Netstock. You can see orders external to your supplier. You can see what I consider, it's all a transfer order, but there are two types of transfers. There are going to be what we call planned transfers. So if you have hub and spoke, central warehouse, things like that, where you know there's internal supply. And then you'll also see ad hoc transfers, which come from our excess redistribution model. So again, uncertain times, we want to distribute within our own supply chain as often as we can, right? If I have it in location A, I don't want to buy it externally in location B. I want to receive a recommendation to take it from A to B. Netstock provides you with all of that information so you can easily and efficiently balance your supply chain. And then the last transaction type would be work orders. So purchase order, transfer orders, and work orders all live in Netstock, and they all live in this screen. Okay, so if I want to open an order, I'll go ahead and hit my supplier. I'll go ahead and hit create order. And then I'll see every single item that needs to be ordered today on one purchase order directly in the interface. I'll do my order review here. You can see that it's essentially a mini version of that item screen that we looked at earlier. We do have the ability to make amendments. We can see when there are minimum order quantities and supplier constraints and things of that nature. And then if I think that this purchase order is good to go, I will go ahead and hit download to the ERP system. So this is where we take what Netstock is saying and then put it back into your ERP. I download this purchase order. I now can see this in my ERP, all of the line items and the quantities. And then you would utilize whatever your current work process is for finalizing purchase orders in your ERP to finalize that PO and push it to the finish line. And then once that transaction is actually opened, then Netstock will read that as open the next time that the application refreshes. So this, again, is the biggest point of value with Netstock, where you have the ability to open up purchase orders in a matter of seconds and get those directly back into the ERP and another handful of minute or so, and then have it be on its way. So that's the order screen. I'm going to go ahead and probably call it a day for the demo, but you can see that there's so many things in here. I get really like nerdy about it because I'm so passionate. But we have, projection modules and supplier performance modules and report builders, and I could talk for probably 3 hours. So like I said, if there's something you want to see, you can pop it in the chat or reach out, or we can get you in a more formalized demo tailored to your business. But yeah, I think that's it for me, Lainey.
Awesome.
I guess
Thanks, Mariah.
Questions, or if there's anything you want to add.
I don't see any other questions, at least that I see. I'm just kind of scrolling through, but I think what's great is how you showed that exactly what, the presentation piece talked about, is how it's not replacing anyone. It's making things more efficient, looking at the things that one of us could have missed, and it's making your job much more strategic, being quicker to make decisions. Like Mariah said, pulling up those POs in a matter of seconds, being able to execute on those, or deciding we don't need to do the one, and you make that decision. It isn't Netstock saying you have to do all of this. You're still involved. It's still interactive.
Yep.
So good. Do any questions? We want to open this up so that we're answering anything that you need. If you can't think of anything at the moment, I'll pop up a slide that has our website, and it'll have both Mariah and my contact information. We're happy to do a very specific demo to your organization and really look at things on how you're doing things and very specific questions that you might have. So please reach out to us, and we're happy to do that.
Yeah. We also have some really good like vertically based content on our website. We have a whole tariff benchmark report on the website. If something that Lainey said about the tariffs really stuck with you, you can go ahead and find some more information about what we're seeing and how our clients are utilizing Netstock to navigate these uncertain times. But
yeah,
if there's any questions, I'll look at the chat, but I don't see any either.
And can you see my screen? Am I sharing the right screen? Hang on, I'm going to try it again.
You were sharing the right one.
I was, okay. I just wanted to make sure. There we go. There's how you can contact us.
Yeah, I think one thing that I want to mention that I didn't mention specifically about Netstock's forecast is you do have the ability to make changes to the forecast on the item level, at an aggregate level. You can download and re-upload forecasts. So there is flexibility in the forecast management, in case anyone was wondering about that.
Perfect. We have a perfect question for you, Mariah, because you come from the implementation team. So how long does it take to implement the application?
It's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
So we say, I think about 8 to 12 weeks for the Netstock implementation. It does depend on obviously the size of the business, the setup, the data quality, the availability of both teams. But we do take you through a full training and help you understand what your business processes look like with Netstock, which is the bulk of the implementation. So going through the different training modules, working with your consultant to make sure that everything is fleshed out and ready to go. So when you go live, you're actually ready to utilize the application in a full planning cycle. But yeah, that's about how long it takes.
On top of that question that I didn't think about until now, but there's some really cool tools that we have built right into our application. So there's some training, there's some self-help, but I want you to jump in and save me with everything that I'm saying, Mariah, because you know this better than me. But let's talk about that a little bit. And if you wanted to share and kind of show that too, you could do that. But there's some really cool stuff that we have. I mean, being in this industry for as long as I have, I haven't seen many applications that offer things like this. So just want to throw that in.
Let me share my screen.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay. So to Lainey's point, we do have tons of resources. So we were just talking about implementation. So these resources are obviously used during implementation, but they're also available to all users for as long as they're Netstock users. Another quick thing while I'm talking about users, in Inventory Advisor, you can have unlimited users. It's not user-based. So I always say that there's a user for everyone in Netstock. I think there's a conception that it is only buyers, which obviously buyers are in here. But I think from experience, a lot of finance folks are trying to get in here and understand what's going on with their supply chain. So you really can use it across all organizations. Like I was saying, cross-functionally, single source of truth to make decisions as an entire business.
That's such a good point, Mariah, when you think about the insights it can give to other parts of an organization without having to set up a meeting or trying to, chase someone down for an answer. By giving them access to this tool, it can give them some insights that they might normally not have, right? So VP of sales, for example, maybe, or what have you. So
in those conversations are more strategic because you already have the information. And from everyone's experience, right, it can take a lot of time to figure out, okay, how are we looking at this? What metrics are we using today? So on and so forth. So all of that is already built out. So you don't have to spend time talking about, okay, what is the scope? We have the scope and we know what we want to talk about and how we want to execute. But in terms of resources, there's tons of resources built into the interface. I don't know if anyone noticed these little question marks and little video buttons, but those are throughout the interface to give you little bite-sized nuggets on what the application is trying to tell you. We also have an entire learning center, which is called our learning library, that will take you to a suite of videos that you'll always have access to. So, coffee chats on Netstock, users talking to each other about, use cases or whatever it may be. That's where a lot of sort of the on-demand live content lives. And again, you'll have access to it forever. We also have a blog and a help center. So depending on your learning style, if you're like a video is not it for me, which is me, we have a help center with a plethora of articles. And it's searchable. We have a glossary. So if you're newer to inventory management and you're bringing on Netstock, but you're also trying to maybe learn a little bit more about supply chain in general, you can utilize the glossary to help you understand keywords, terms, things like that. But also like there's a supplier shutdown article in here. So, how to effectively utilize the application. We give you a ton of content on how to really do that. And then another thing, and then we can kind of take a pause. I do want to briefly talk about support. Like I said, I'll just keep going, but support is something that's really beneficial and important to clients. How do we provide support? How quickly can we get support? So the first line of support with Netstock is actually nested directly in the interface. You can go ahead and hit this little chat button and it will go give you the opportunity to put in a message. You'll also see key features, things like that. But your message will go directly to the team of consultants here at Netstock, and it's kind of like a live chat. I'm sure folks have utilized something similar. But we also have AI built into our chat interface. So our journey to AI, we also use, external applications to help as well. But yeah, so you can receive help very quickly, which is what we want, especially if you are bringing on a piece of technology into your business. You don't have to email a random email and wait 4 to 6 weeks for an update on your issue, which I think is really great and shows our commitment to our clients. So that's it. Those are the kind of the key learning things that live within the application that everyone will have access to.
Perfect. Thanks so much for showing that. With that, I don't see any other questions. I think we could wrap it up. Brianna, if you have anything to add, certainly jump in. But we really appreciate the time spent with you, and we hope to hear from you soon. So Brianna, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. That was so great. Your recording and this webinar will be posted to our Doug YouTube channel so people can reference it. And see you next time.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.